one man's science and some rogue dictator, Administrator Biden, up here who's being controlled and moved around and used as a puppet for these globalists at the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, all of the billionaires in the good old boy club there with George Soros. And we know what it is. We've called out their names. We've talked about the Great Reset. We've talked about the New World Order. The prototype is Australia. These kids, everybody's being locked down. You can only exercise 1 hour a day there. You have to wear a mask everywhere you go. Police are making arrests if you go more than 1 kilometer. That's a half a mile away from your house. There's a video on TikTok that's going around all over the place from one of these kids that was force jabbed, was passed out. He's dead. We've never seen so much tyranny happen in this world completely unchecked. We are a country of 350 million people. We are a world of about 7 billion people. Where are all of the men in this country? That, I think, is what confuses me the most. The absolute acceptance of all of this, the stolen election. I mean, there were people in France and Italy, people in Hungary protesting our stolen election more fervently than we were here on the ground. This tyranny is completely unchecked. We're joined by an America First candidate for U.S. Congress. His name is Jerome Bell out of Virginia. He's a retired chief petty officer from the Navy. Jerome, listen, how much further is this going to go, do you anticipate, before we see some real action, grassroots, people in the streets? Or is this are we just looking at the end times?
I don't know where that red line is going to be drawn in the sand. My red line had been drawn a year ago. I never wear a mask. I would never take the jab, and so these people have to wake up. We have too many complacent people in the United States. What's going on in Australia right now should be a wake-up call to everybody. And thank God that we have not given up our right to guns yet, because this would definitely be a shooting battle if this was what's going on. If they started to try to do what's happening in Australia. They are physically taking people's kids away from them and giving them an experimental deadly vaccine. And there's nothing those people can do about it. That there is the most remarkable thing I've ever seen in my lifetime. I never thought that I would see anything like this in my lifetime, especially here in the United States. But when this mask came out, I came out against the mask. I said, the mask is going to lead to the jab. The jab is going to lead to the vaccine passports. You're going to, have to show your passports or proof, whatever, to eat, to buy anything. And yeah, it's coming and it's here, Stu. And I said it a year ago that when you capitulate and when you comply to one thing, the government and the globalists will not give you your rights back. They're going to add on to it. And so you see what's happening. So, Stu, at some point, and I don't know when that's going to be, but at some point, Americans have to take to the streets, because they're not coming to get our kids like that. These people are not going to come into our homes, into our neighborhoods to come and get our kids without being a war. And if they want a war, that's going to be the red line when you start coming after our children. They're already coming after the minds of our children, but when you start to come physically at them to give them the jab, then I think that's going to be the ignition point.
The propaganda behind the whole plan to put that patriotism on ice, to chill that resistance, started with, obviously it's been going on for decades, but out in the wide open with January 6th. And now we know that Roger Stone, Alex Jones, a lot of these people have been vindicated, as the FBI is now coming out and saying, no, we couldn't find that there was really any plan here. Well, yeah. We said that. We've been saying that there was no plan here, that the only plan was by the deep state and by Nancy Pelosi's Gestapo, and the only violence that was committed there was at her direction. And this was orchestrated by the FBI. The FBI infiltrated inside of here and turned this around. But the point is that this was used to scare Americans into inaction, to put the fear of God into them, where they're not going to say anything, they're not going to oppose anything, they're not going to raise any flags anymore, certainly not going to go gather in large groups, they're not going to be out in the street, because, God, they could be jailed and they could be left in some solitary confinement with misdemeanor charges for God knows how long. And now we see this DHS bulletin coming out to law enforcement agencies, advertised all over the place, that if you question the response to COVID, or if you question the 2020 election, you could be considered to be a terrorist. Where does it stop? You have to believe that this is fixable because you're running for Congress. So how is it fixed? Where do we start?
Well, it's going to start with the people, and January 6th was definitely not an insurrection, and that is coming out. And what they're doing, they're backtracking because they're covering their asses, to be honest, because it's coming out that the FBI, they had infiltrators. They ran that operation on January 6th. The Revolver News has done an excellent job, and they're bringing that out. There's one of the news outlets that's bringing that out. So they had infiltrators and they had operators on the ground, the FBI and these other alphabet entities. But, these prisoners that they have, these political prisoners that they have locked up, they need to be released immediately. And not only that, Stu, when we signed the NDAA and the Patriot Act in, 2014 or 2000, before that, 2012, 2014, I said, this is going to be used against the American people. They called it the Patriot Act for a reason, not the Patriot Act to go after terrorists. They called it the Patriot Act because it's going to be used against patriots here in the United States. And once again, we're here, and I said that years ago. But I'm running for Congress to definitely try to stop that. And that's what I say, 2022, if we don't get the majority of America First patriots into Congress and into the Senate and get out these rhinos and these Democrats, then, all bets are off. All bets are off after 2022. We have these people need to look past, President Trump on to 2024. No, we need to find out what happened in the elections 2020. We know what happened. We've been talking about it. It needs to be brought out to the American people. And these people that committed treason in the United States, they need to be tried. They need to be arrested, tried, and fried, and put on public display, just like they tried to put these patriots on display January 6th. The people that have committed fraud and that helped in this coup of the United States needs to be put on trial.
There are so many people with platforms that tiptoe around this, and I don't know why. But if President Trump had called for an armed insurrection, they would have got it. They would have seen what a real insurrection looks like. There would have been no doubt they would have got it, because there are 150 million gun owners that would have been there, and there would have been some problems. There, I said it. That was not an insurrection. You're seeing an insurrection happen in Afghanistan right now. The Taliban is doing what we could call an insurrection right now. And the only insurrection that I can think of in recent times that has happened here in this country happened overnight between November 3rd and November 4th, when a successful coup d'etat was implemented, the political assassination of a sitting president after multiple failed and false, phony lies and a charade called an impeachment. We know exactly what happened. And the fact that these media conglomerates out here won't talk about that makes them complicit as well. All of them. Every single one of them. And there is not a gatekeeper that's going to be safe for me. I will come after all of them, and I bet you will too. Final minute. You're running for Congress. Make your plea.
Yeah, I'm running for Congress of the United States. I'm going after all of them too, whether they're Democrats, whether they're rhinos. I'm going after all of them, because what happened definitely was a coup d'etat. And you're only going to find a handful of people like you and myself, Stu, that's going to call it the way it really is and the way it really happened. So if people want to join my fight, I'm calling it the new conservative revolution, not this old conservatism, not this old Republican Party. I'm calling for a new conservative revolution of black conservatives, white conservatives, Asians, that's going to come together and take this country back, because we have these feckless rhinos and these feckless Democrats that's only hungry for power, and they're controlled by the CCP, they're controlled by the globalists, and they think that they're going to be safe. They're not safe either. They're not going to be safe. We're going to come after you. We're going to get you out of office. And if it comes down to, what they really want, then, they're going to get that too, whatever that is. And I'm not going to say, because I don't want people to say I'm, trying to cause an insurrection in the United States, because I'm not. I would rather this not be violent, but we need to get this country back. And if people want to help me and donate to my campaign so I can stay in the fight, you go to JeromeBellForCongress.com, JaromeFor Congress.com. Join the fight. Join this new conservative revolution. Let's take this country back, because we have less than 2 years to really take this country back, or we're going to lose it forever, Stu.
Thank you for talking real talk and for speaking plain USDA choice, dyed-in-the-wool, thoroughbred patriotism. You bleed it, and I can tell, brother, you have my support. Jerome Bell, thank you very much. The War Room is up next with Owen Schroyer. Do not be black-pilled. Do not let this get you down. Remember, this is a big country, and you are the majority. Find me at stupeters.tv. My name is Stu Peters. I was happy to be with you this Friday and hope to see you next.